from deep within the Appalachian Mountains. As always, this is Andrew and John, and we are your hosts of Sasquatchers. Yeah, I dug that. I dug that. So that was me playing with our intro because I was told very casually that every episode that I've done so far has began with "Hey everybody." So I was trying to make a signature, but I could always do better, I guess. So
who's in the Appalachian Mountains?
I am in the Appalachian Mountains.
I'm not.
I am deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Well, they kind of touch Ohio. You know, we'll pretend nobody knows that you're not.
We just told everybody.
Nobody cares. I'm from the Appalachian Mountains.
Fair.
So this week's episode changed last minute. We had a guest, and due to some technical issues, we no longer have a guest, and we have rescheduled him. And I'm still excited to have that opportunity to have a conversation with him, but that's going to have to wait for a little while. And in the meantime, I thought, we can't obviously miss any episodes. We're running too strong. The podcast is going too well to miss. So we just kind of jumped on, and every once in a while, we're going to have to spitball an episode. So I thought it would be a good idea to, just kind of casually talk about what we have next week, as well as get into this new Bigfoot footage from Colorado. And if anything else happens to need discussed, we will. This might end up being a shorter episode, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. I think talking about what we have on the cusp is actually an important topic. So I'm not too upset that we get to do that. I have been grassroots hustling this show. I am on a daily basis working nonstop to grow, and I'm not even being facetious when I say from week 1 to now, where we're at, technically it's week 4, but episode 5, we've grown, I think, over 200% as far as our reach, our landscape, from a social media standpoint, from downloads weekly standpoint, like everything about this show. And I'm not going to take 100% of the credit for that, but week to week we're growing exponentially, and that's not going to stop. But I'm also going to take a second here and appreciate it and say that I'm seeing dividends now of it paying off, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And all we had to do was work for it, which is a crazy thought. I think too many people just kind of expect things or don't expect them, so to speak. In 2023, podcasting is like the 80s, I'm going to be in a band kind of mentality. They're a dime a dozen, and very few of us actually stand out. And when you do finally have one, your bandmates let you down. And so far, I can say that my bandmate here in Ohio has done anything but let me down. And we're rocking it, and we're putting out a product that people are happy with. And can we just take a minute to appreciate how great last episode was, for real? Like, that was a really good episode, and that conversation wouldn't have happened if we weren't, grassrooting this thing. And so I'm happy with that. I learned a lot. I look forward to talking to those awesome people again, and I think that's going to happen sooner than later.
Well, I will say this: you have been the Eddie Van Halen of the Paranormal Podcast Group. You have not only aimed for the stars, but quite possibly shot past them.
I'll take that compliment. I'm terrible at taking compliments, but I'll take that compliment. I'll do a little eruption for you right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and hopefully you're not my David Lee Roth, and we can, you know, aim for those stars and stay with those stars together. But speaking of stars, we have nothing but a star-studded cast of guests about to make their way onto Sasquatchers, the little podcast that has the silly name that a couple of weeks ago was nothing at all even close to what it's become in such a short period of time. And I said from the beginning, anybody who's listened from the start, this podcast was created because I was trying to make an Art Bell documentary, because I am a fan of Art Bell, the broadcaster, the man, the guy who invented this genre. So it's actually really cool for me to say that our next guest is an author who has been featured on Art Bell's show 3 different times and has been gracious enough to have a conversation with us next week. And that is Preston Dennett. Now, if anybody's not familiar with Preston, he has published 30 nonfiction books. He's had over 100 articles about the UFO and paranormal phenomenon. He's an expert in UFOs. He works for MUFON, which is something that I think, for me, qualifies as an unbiased expert opinion. Anybody who might not be familiar with MUFON, they are the organization that you reach out to, and they scientifically investigate what might be happening in the sky during a UFO. Their goal is to find the real logical explanation and to, I don't want to say discredit, this is an alien spacecraft, but it's the last denominator that they look for. So when somebody is an agent of MUFON, I tend to give them a little more credit and leeway when they're talking about the paranormal, because he works for that organization. So this is an absolute huge guest. And, even as recent as 2023, he has a book called Humanoids and High Strangeness. Prior to that, in 2022, excuse me, Not From Here, Volume 4, 2022, Symmetry, a true UFO adventure. So the guy, I mean, maybe he might think I'm being too flattering when we talk to him, but this guy, to me, is the Stephen King of nonfiction UFO. It just never stops working. In addition to that, I believe the last conversation he had with Art Bell, he covered out-of-body experiences and basically how that can lead into celestial travel and stuff. So, sorry, I have a cold, and my throat's still not 100% from my surgery. I'm basically gonna just attack this dude with a potluck of questions. It might be all over the place as far as everything that I'm going to try to learn and talk about, but this is a big deal, dude. When I first started this podcast and had the idea, the thing that's going to separate us is to have guests. There's a million paranormal podcasts, and the ones that aren't overproduced with silly background noise and somebody reading from their cell phone. Exactly. Have just people just kind of rambling and talking and whatever works. I listen to pretty much all of them. But the thing that separates the men from the boys is the content that you're putting out. So the fact that I'm able to secure a guest of this level really, I think, validates everything that I've said from the very start and all of the stuff that we're going to do in the future. And on the same day, we have an equally huge guest. Can you please tell us about the other guest while I try to fix this awful problem I have with my esophagus?
Sure. So our other guest that we're talking about is Father Vincent Lampert. He is the author of the book Exorcism: The Battle Against Satan and His Demons. So Father Vincent Lampert is a graduate of St. Meinrad College at the University of St. Mary and Lake Mundelein Seminary. Father Lampert was ordained as a priest in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis in 1991. He currently serves as a pastor of St. Michael and St. Peter parishes in Brookville, Indiana. In 2005, he was appointed the exorcist of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. So you might say, oh, okay, he's the Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church in Indianapolis. Fair. But I want to point out something. So I have read his book. As I mentioned, it's called Exorcism: The Battle Against Satan and His Demons. That there are about 20 appointed exorcists within the Roman Catholic Church in the United States. Now, think about how big the Roman Catholic Church is in the United States or in the entire world. So there are 20 appointed exorcists. Most of them are completely anonymous. They do not make themselves known for various reasons. Maybe they're just being humble or because people take advantage of things like that. But Father Lampert makes himself publicly known, and he has for quite some time. He wrote a book during COVID about this. It's a great book. You should pick it up if you have the time to read it. But he travels around doing talks about exorcisms, and he's agreed to be on our podcast to talk about everything he's seen. Every year, he gets over 1,800 inquiries related to exorcisms. So he is based in Indianapolis, but he gets 1,800 inquiries from all over the country. And he has dealt with all of these for the last, 2005, the last 20 years almost. So, Father Vincent Lampert, we're glad to have you on, and we're looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a good one. I think he has a lot of things to talk about, a lot of stories to tell. And it's going to be one of those coming home episodes where, maybe we might be a little bit humbled by what he has to say because, he's a priest. He's going to have his word, and he's going to tell us about, all the interactions he's had. And even, to tie into that a little bit, we had talked about certain things and some other episodes about mimics and possessions and things like that. And I think these all are going to tie back into Father Lampert's discussion. So really looking forward to having him on. It's going to be a very good discussion. And, thanks to him for coming on, and thanks to everybody that comes and listens to the podcast. And as I mentioned, Andrew has been going around the world trying to get us on different episodes and getting different guests and everything. So,
well, the amount of people that I have right now trying to book with us is insane. It's humbling to think that so many people are willing to come and talk to us, but then, like, to counter that, there's all these other podcasts. Why is that not happening? So what are we doing that so many others aren't doing?
Getting guests.
Yeah, but I think, it just goes to show that, our hard work is paying off. You said something I do want to address because it's kind of noteworthy and mind-boggling at the same. So you said there are 20 appointed exorcists
in the United States, from and they're all appointed from Rome.
Right, they would have to go over there.
The Pope appoints the exorcists.
So there are 20, and we have 2 of them who have agreed to come onto our show. So Sasquatchers within the next few weeks will have, what's that, 10%?
10%, you know, in the United
10%
States.
of America's exorcists will have been featured on our show, dude. Like, that is actually like a crazy statistic that we could play with. Like, we have 10%, and how long until we have 50%? Because I think that something like that could happen.
It could. Well, the thing with the Roman Catholic exorcists is, as I mentioned, they are secretive. And well, maybe secretive is not the right word. They are not public because people take advantage of that, obviously. With all the movies and stuff in the media and that, people are like, oh, let's get the media has made this big ordeal about like Roman Catholic exorcisms. Even recently, like the Pope's Exorcist, the movie that came out, was this big thing about like, oh, the Roman Catholics are practicing this like rite that is this mystical, magical thing that's happening. But that's not the case because most of them don't even go public. There are very few. And as far as I'm aware, there's only a couple in the United States. Out of the 20, we've talked to two that will come on. And that's the two that I know of. There's one more that I've not talked to. But out of all 20, there's three that I'm aware of that are publicly operating in the United States. And Father Lampert actually has a ministry that's focused on exorcisms. So, this isn't like just people out doing these random exorcisms having fun like it's a party or anything. This is a very guarded thing. And for these exorcisms to happen, and I take this directly from his book, it has to go to the bishop for review. And the bishop reviews, there's a board that reviews these before it gets passed to the exorcist. So it doesn't just go through the email to an exorcist. And the exorcist is like, oh, this is a possession, I have to go there. There's a whole deliberation that happens before the exorcist would even think of engaging in what could be an exorcism. So this isn't just like, my son was throwing up yesterday morning, I need an exorcist. And they call Father Lampert or whoever, and then the exorcist shows up and throws holy water on everybody. It doesn't happen like that. So it's pretty guarded now, and I think for good reasons, because since the 70s it's become a popularity, obviously since um, the Exorcist, the
I mean,
movie.
we have a sequel to that movie in theaters
We
literally right now.
We did. So
So,
funny planning, but we didn't plan it to be like that. And Father Lampert had nothing to do with that movie, although he may know people that did, but we can talk about that later. So yeah, it is fairly guarded, and like if you read his book and that, he talks more about it. It's a very specific thing, and he didn't even want to do it at first because no exorcist actually wants to be an exorcist. But he was
hey,
appointed. He was appointed the exorcist. So, and he took it on. He's been doing it for over, I think, 15 years. God bless him, and can't wait to talk to him.
yeah, and it's exciting because you know what we're doing here. I mean, the show is called Sasquatchers. We post comical memes and stuff for fun on a daily basis, but I mean, the bulk and the heart of what reaches people about the paranormal is the unknowns of it all and the things that are scary. And this topic is probably the scariest.
The afterlife, absolutely.
So I'm really excited to get into it. And again, growing up an Art Bell fan, I have questions for the father based off of the knowledge that I have from the Malachi Martin series of interviews. And, it was just, again, like I said, everything that we do, it kind of all ties into a greater theme. And that is the thing that will do that. But, in order to sit here and have this kind of conversation, like, we have to be ready to be kind of frightened. There's a large gap between riffing about the Loch Ness monster for fun, which we've done, and sitting here speaking to this father who performs these exorcisms. And again, I'm just going to keep kind of putting us on that pedestal. Like, I don't know many people that can make that adjustment, especially so quickly, as well as that as us. And I'm willing to sit here and ask questions that are going to scare the crap out of me and accept the answers that I'm given. And we're not having him on so that we could joke about Penn and Teller. Or, we're having him on so that we can, have a legitimate interview with someone who has a fascinating life and, try to create some kind of understanding. Even last week when we had that amazing episode with our friends from the Crescent Sanatorium, they were very hesitant to use what they called the D word.
Yeah, I brought that up. They didn't seem to like that.
Right. So just to even just get almost, I guess, a difference of opinion, or, I don't know if that's the best way to say it.
I thought about asking that question to him too, because I posed that question to them last week about, you have these interactions and that. Well, how do you know these aren't just all demons masquerading? Well, they didn't like the word demon, and that's fair. Okay. Now, I want to pose that same question to Father Lampert as well, because I think he's going to have a different interpretation of it.
Right. And I think that's what's really cool about what we're doing is, in a way, we're creating this series of interviews where each and every person who talks to us is equally valid, but just a different interpretation of what's going on out there. And I think that is the best possible outcome for any kind of paranormal discussion. There are going to be people that don't want to say demon. But here's a guy whose entire life is structured around defeating demons.
Defeating the devil, literally.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And so those are a couple shows that we have lined up literally just a week from now. But looking even further into the future, an equally huge and important guest has been booked for January. And people in Pennsylvania are going to know him, maybe more so than somebody from like California or something. But that man is Stan Gordon, and he is huge in the paranormal field, and an expert on ufology as well as Bigfoot. And for a show called Sasquatchers, we don't have enough Bigfoot content just yet, so I keep trying to get that on there, because Sasquatch is like kind of the unofficial mascot of what we do, despite the fact that the paranormal is a much broader thing than just Bigfoot and cryptid creatures. This guy brings so many years of experience and a wealth of knowledge and respect to the community. And again, just the fact that we are able to get this level of guest is really humbling, but solidifying kind of my opinion that this is the paranormal show that is going to take over. Like, we are paving the way for what potentially, I don't know, could be huge in the near future. And these levels of guests, like, they're not going to change. We're just going to keep building and building and building. And I wish I could tell you who all I've been in communication with, because until something is booked and confirmed, I can't, in good conscience, kind of talk about it, because I don't want to end up advertising something that falls through. But just know that I am dedicating my entire being to booking quality guests for this show, and that doesn't stop after a week from now. Once we go through the ones that we've discussed, we have an insane amount of name value coming onto this show. But I want to emphasize, you do not need to have a book or a show or a movie to sell to come on to this program, because each and every human who has had experiences with the paranormal and want to talk about it should be given the platform to do it in an environment that is, man, I don't want to say it, but safe to do so. I think too often, that's kind of like people are inundated with, well, safe space, safe space, safe space, whatever. But each and every single person who has a story to tell, we're going to listen to it respectfully. And I do want to emphasize, like, you don't have to have a show on Discovery to come onto this program. I will listen to each and every word with bated breath, because that's the purpose of this show. That's like, we're here to grow the community and to hear your stories. And that's important to me. And if we can be entertaining while we do it, that's the ultimate goal. If we can produce a show that people want to listen to that includes your stories, that's the goal. But ultimately, we're here for you. And so don't be afraid while we're booking to, reach out. If you have a story to tell, please come tell it. I have a day that I could talk to you. Like, we can make it work. I'm producing a show. Literally any bit of content that we can put together, that's perfect for me. Regular Joes. That's who's listening. This is the paranormal show by fans for fans, essentially.
This is Sasquatchers. We're Sasquatching for you. Come on the show.
Sasquatch with us.
Yes.
But
we also have lined up, now this is a couple weeks out, but we have Father John Zada as well, another Roman Catholic exorcist from the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that has some stories that he wants to tell us as well. So we have quite a few different shows lined up here, some content lined up. It's going to be really interesting to see it from a point of view of a Roman Catholic priest, juxtaposed to maybe like what we had last episode. Very good episode. Everybody should check it out. The Paranormal Investigators Who Do Not Want to Say the D Word. But I think we're going to hear different opinions about the D word when we talk to these priests.
Yeah, and again, that's the other percentile of the 10% who are graciously coming onto our program to talk to us and give us a incredible show for the listeners to listen to. But moving forward from kind of the portion where we're talking about our upcoming guests, the show is called Sasquatchers. We haven't had a lot of Sasquatch content, and we've kind of been blessed with Bigfoot trending over the last couple of days due to this video in Colorado. Now, I'm not sure if everybody listening has seen the video, so it will be shared on our Facebook group, so that if you haven't seen it, you can go check it out and see what we're talking about. But we now have some Bigfoot content to discuss, and I wanted to talk about it, to kind of bookend what this episode was going to be. because there's a lot of people talking about it. And I'm kind of the opinion that this is not what people want it to be. I think this is one of those almost too good to be true videos. So if you're not familiar with it, there are people on a train and they're recording, and you see this upright humanoid, possible Bigfoot, possible human in a ghillie suit, walking kind of down the mountainside, and then almost crouching and positioning himself in that crouch prone pose, and then the video kind of stops. So that, like, it's cool and it's big news, and it's nice to have, you know, a worldwide trending Bigfoot video. But in my opinion, the suit, it just doesn't look authentic. And like I said, to me, it almost kind of looks like a ghillie suit. I thought for a second while we were talking about it earlier if it may be some kind of hunter. But you made a good point about, you know, like, what are the laws in Colorado for hunting? And can you be that close to a train track? So at first I was kind of the opinion that this was a completely accidental thing where there was a hunter and he was positioning to hunt, and people, you know, have somehow manifested this into a Bigfoot. But that's a really good point that I was not really considering. So now we have to look at it from a hoax standpoint, I think. How do you feel about this video?
So it looks really good for social media. I mean, it's people on a train, they're recording some random humanoid figure walking across this field in the distance. I don't know. What do you want to say? Maybe 300 feet? Maybe it's, I don't know. It's really hard to judge the distance. But yeah, the hunting thing, I mean, like, unless he's violating Colorado laws, which I'm not familiar with, but I can imagine you cannot hunt that close to a railroad. To me, it looks like somebody in one of those dog bite costumes. Maybe costume's the wrong word. An outfit that have the padding in that, and they're out there, and then the guy sits down in the quasi. You know, here, I got the diarrhea. I got to sit down and take a shit. That's what it looks like to me. Now, I've watched it a few times over and over again, but I want to point out one thing about this, though. All right, so let's assume whether it's real or fake. Okay, fair. There have been many more sightings in Colorado than just this one in 2023. In fact, there have been over 130 sightings. Now, I don't know what county this took place in. Maybe you can clarify that. But just in Park County alone in Colorado, there have been 13 sightings. Teller County has had 9. Lake, Larimer, Conneaus, El Paso, they've all had about 8. So we temper the discussion a little bit with that. Is this real or is it fake? My opinion is I think the motions of the figure are a little too humanistic compared to other videos I've seen of a Sasquatch. But I mean, like, I'm not opposed to considering that maybe it's real, but like I said, I think that this is not a real one. I think there's something else going on in this video that we're not aware of. Where's the whole video? The people on the train just decide to pull this up and film it for a few seconds and then they quit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too skeptical.
No, I think it's okay to have that skeptical lens, because these are the questions that a skeptic would ask. So, what kind of train is this? How many more people witnessed it? Where are those witness accounts? Why aren't those people clarifying? Like, well, actually, no, that was definitely just a dude in a weird suit. Or, yeah, that guy's definitely hunting illegally. Like, I think what's interesting is we have a video. So we have these two people's, you know, eyewitness account, but my understanding, they're obviously not driving the train. So where are even the people who are clarifying what is actually happening? So first we have that missing. secondly, I think the suit looks too fake. And I think, I made a point weeks ago that so often when somebody claims hoax, they're taking credit for somebody else's hoax. We've seen it in all of the big, I'll say videos or photographs. We have the Patterson Gimlin film, which is the end all be all in cryptozoology, and the surgeon photo. Both of those have been put into question by people not involved claiming to have been involved. So there's no actual evidence or documentation to back it up. So the Patterson Gimlin film, it's been called into question. But even in 2023, if you clean that video up, and there are many people on YouTube who have done this, you've cleaned that video up, and that creature still has what appears to be mangy fur. It is not distributed evenly throughout the entire body. You're seeing muscle mass. You're seeing so many things that I think can't be discredited in that film, regardless of how it walks, regardless of if they were working on a Bigfoot documentary when they happened upon a Bigfoot. People put so much emphasis on that as if like that wouldn't happen. That's the crazy thing to me. Like, to try to discredit this because people went into Bigfoot country to make a Bigfoot film and found Bigfoot, that's not crazy to me. Crazy to so many other skeptical people out there in the world, though, and that's fine. But
deathbed confessions.
Exactly. Don't exist. But when you take just the things that I've described about that suit from the 60s and you compare them to this suit in 2023, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't look right. I think clearly what you have is a human in some kind of a suit. What kind of a suit? I don't know. But
I've been looking at it here for like the last couple minutes. It looks so stiff to me. Like, it looks like cardboard.
Yeah, it looks very inauthentic to me.
So why? Okay, so let's assume for a second here that this is a real Bigfoot sighting. Why is this Bigfoot just stopping in the middle of all of these other brown foliage to hide itself? I mean, it's already walked the whole way across the mountainside here and exposed itself to everybody on this train, but now it's going to sit down and hide itself. I don't know. It's not making sense to me.
If that is a Bigfoot or if that is a human and they are not putting on a show for that train, I think they're taking a dump.
That's how I take a shit, but like, that's regardless of the point.
That's kind of what I interpreted. Like, this is, if that is a Bigfoot, it's pooping. Like, you got the only footage of Bigfoot pooping. But I just think it looks too inauthentic. So I'm not convinced, and I think it's important to have things like this so that the greater zeitgeist can be aware and kind of keep things in conversation. But I don't see it, and God bless anyone who's going to defend this video. But what's important is in 2023, with what should be and no less than an iPhone 14. That's the video quality that you're going to get. And we could go back and we can look at a film made in the 60s, and it should just be validation to our end all be all Patterson Gimlin film. That's what a 2023 video in Colorado looks like. So can we start giving some true credit where it's deserved to the video that started it all? That's the point I'm always going to make.
I mean, well, do we want to say that it started all? Because there have been legends of Bigfoot prior to that. Was the first like
I
video
mean,
footage,
I mean, video
photographic footage
footage
that we
and
had.
like
Sure.
it's been put under a lens literally since it came out, and
100,000 times.
yet to be discredited.
Deathbed confession.
But the deathbed confession actually never happened. That's a myth. That's the thing. Patterson Gimlin never said anything about it being fake. One of them went to his grave not taking any credit of a hoax, and the other dude's still alive. So, I mean, maybe we'll see one day, but until that happens, to me, I've not seen any evidence to suggest that video is not authentic, and to me, it's the strongest piece of evidence to this day supporting that there is a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. And no amount of people trying to discredit it is going to change my mind, because in 2023, we can't even have a convincing hoax. Nothing has ever looked as good. So, yeah, it is what it is. And I'm glad that we got to discuss Bigfoot finally, but I just don't see it. But I think for people who are enthusiastic about it, like, don't be discouraged because somebody in Colorado, who, by the way, there's, like you said, 130 sightings. You know what I would do if I was going to hoax? I would wait until there were 130 sightings, so it would kind of back up my claim that what I'm doing out in the on the hillside next to this train is legitimate. So that video also doesn't discredit 130 claims in 10 months of sightings either. And what we should do is look more into those sightings and take a look at that evidence, because that's what's going to encourage the guy in the suit on the hillside 2 days ago, 3 days ago, to do what they're doing. But let's not allow ourselves to, ignore the important evidence because the evidence that we have is bad.
I see it like this. So even if all of this is made up, if the whole Bigfoot thing is a giant conspiracy BS thing made up, is it not entertaining? Do you not want this to continue? People watch all kinds of stupid shit on TV, but they have no problem calling out Bigfoot's fake. Bigfoot's not real. None of this stuff's real. Mothman is fake. This is all crap. But you sit there and you watch your television shows, which are all choreographed and scripted and made up. But Bigfoot can't be real.
And then almost to like look down on it, it's such like a silly thing. Now, at the same time, as somebody that wants to believe, I want to believe. I guess I almost want to wait until we have a Bigfoot expert weigh in on this kind of stuff. But I think what happens is we have the interdimensional Bigfoot now. And to me, as somebody who will defend the Patterson Gimlin film till I'm blue in the face, or, I will fist fight somebody over if needed. If you're going to lock me in a cage with somebody,
Deathbed confession.
I will fist fight in a cage in defense. I cannot get into the Bigfoot is an interdimensional traveler thing at all. And there are some people that feel the same way about that theory as I do about the original film. So, it's one thing, I guess, to sit here and scoff at it until I have someone who can give me a proper debate. I just don't even really look into it. To me, I think that is such a cop-out. And we shouldn't, as investigators or enthusiasts, allow ourselves to cop out. I don't want a lack of evidence to then create this theory that they're walking through wormholes, and that's why we don't have any Bigfoot remains right now. I just can't do it. I will take this footage from Colorado as being factual before I can even consider allowing myself to believe that Bigfoot walks through wormholes to come here for some reason.
70% of the ocean is unexplored. We have no idea. We have how many millions of miles of forest line on this planet that nobody's ever even been in. Look at all the forests that we have in Canada and Europe and Asia. People have never even been there. There are countless acres, thousands of acres of land that people have never even stepped foot on. But Bigfoot can't be real. Deep sea monsters can't be real. None of this is real. Don't believe it. You're not allowed.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing that we can then, produce an argument for is that thing that everybody said wasn't real until about 15 years ago. That was the giant squid. You remember the giant squid that wasn't real, that people made up and sailors only talked about because mermaids and all that other stuff is just, myth. Right then and there, bam, and once we discovered it, it's been there. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's just it took some time to find it, but once we did, now we have video of it swimming around, living. People are interacting with them. The giant squid, in our lifetime was a cryptid.
Mm-hmm. The coelacanth is another one. That's it's a legitimate living fossil. The coelacanth, that fish that's been in existence for thousands of years that nobody thought existed, and then they found it like in Australia, I think is where they found it, like back in the 60s or something, and it's still alive. So, I mean, you can hate all you want, you can fight all you want, but eventually these things all come back to light, and the light gets shine on them, and that's the perfect disinfectant, right? Like light.
Yeah, hey man, the mountain gorilla was undiscovered until the 40s, and that's a pretty similar creature to what we're dealing with the Bigfoot too. So, absolutely, from a scientific standpoint, and
then you might have Welsh people running around in the Appalachians.
Well,
but that's for a different episode.
We will get into that, and they may or may not be related to me. I live in the Appalachians, and I certainly can provide DNA evidence that I am Welsh and of Welsh descent, so that'll be fun to get into. But all of that and more coming up in the next couple of weeks from Sasquatchers. To recap, for any of those who have listened for the full 47, going on 48 minutes of this discussion, we have huge guests, absolutely astronomical guests, shows that you cannot miss. And we are providing that for you. So please, like, subscribe, share, hit the socials, all of the things that we're supposed to say as a show. Do all of those things. Keep your eyes on the product, because we are giving you something literally just a week from now that nobody else is giving you. So, stick with us, because this is going to blow up. We're almost made a tasteless Hiroshima bomb joke.
Not we. Not we. It was you.
And that's just because I love Jaws so much, and I wanted to say it like Quint. But we have so many cool things in store. So literally, thank you, anyone who listens and does those things. Your support means everything, because we're not getting paid for this. We don't make any money from this. This is a labor of love. So anybody who shares that love with us it's appreciative, and it's awesome, and it's validating, and everything that we are jumping through hoops to provide for you is going to pay off, and it starts paying off with your support, just listening and enjoying it, and just can I sit here and say that this is a vanity project? Maybe a little bit. I think it's really cool that based on some of the work that I've done over the past couple of weeks, I'm going to talk to Preston freaking Dennett next week, man. But I'm doing that, for everyone, universally. This is how we make our little corner of the world better for anyone who wants to be involved. So, thanks for squatching, everybody.
Squatch me get undressed.
He's not actually getting undressed.
Nah. Not for this pay tier. Give me some more.
And with that said, squash you later.
Squatch you later.